Hello students, welcome back to the session on immunity. In this session we'll start with the types of immunity or defense mechanisms. Now the types of immunity basically is of two types. Number one is innate or inborn immunity, also called non-specific immunity. So number one, innate or inborn, also called at times non-specific. So this is one type of immunity. The second type is called the one which is acquired. So it is called acquired immunity, you can say, or you may call it adaptive, as it is a sort of adaptation, or we also call it specific because it is specific in nature. Now the innate or inborn or non-specific defense mechanisms, they are further of two types. Number one, we call external defense, and second is called internal defense. And now these two types, external defense and internal defense, are also called as first line defense and maybe the second line defense. So first line defense and second line defense. Then the acquired immunity, which is also known as third line defense. This is called third line of defense. It is of two types further. Number one is called active immunity, and second is called passive immunity. Passive immunity. So now we find that immunity, number one, innate types of immunity, innate or inborn type, then the acquired or adaptive type, followed by two types of innate immunity, that is first line and second line defense, then acquired or adaptive or specific immunity is also called third line of defense, or for the two types, active and passive immunity. So let us start first with the innate or inborn immunity. We shall be discussing this third line, that is the acquired or adaptive immunity, a little later. So let us start first with the first one, that is first line or external defense. Now before going to external or internal defense, let us see what we understand by the term innate immunity. What is innate immunity? So innate immunity, or the first line of defense of, is basically innate immunity comprises physical and chemical barriers. So when we come to innate immunity, it is comprised of two aspects. Number one, physical barriers, followed by the chemical barriers. So in the external defense, the first line, which is here, now this is first line, it is two types further. physical barriers. So physical barriers and chemical barriers. So number one, physical barriers, and then followed by the second one, that is the chemical barriers. In physical barriers we include skin, then mucus, uh, nasal hairs, as we find very useful otherwise, nasal hairs, and lastly uh, cilia with variety of functions. Physical barriers, skin. Now skin, our body or the parts are covered by outer tough layer called horny layer, or also called stratum corneum. You must have studied this in detail in while doing your chapter on uh, epithelial tissue. So stratum corneum, as it is called, basically skin consists of dead, fully keratinized cells. So these cells of skin, which otherwise is uh, horny layer or stratum corneum, they are dead, number one, and also very tough because they are keratinized cells, fully keratinized cells. So this skin prevents the entry of viruses and bacteria. So viruses or bacteria cannot enter our body because skin acts as a very you can say effective barrier. Number one. Second is followed by mucus. Now mucus is secreted by mucous membrane. So this mucous membrane, what does it do? It traps the microorganisms once when they're trying to enter the body. So it traps, the mucous membrane traps the microorganisms and immobilizes them. So again they can't enter. Nasal hairs are very useful. They trap dust particles, and along with the dust particles, if there are microorganisms, they are also trapped. But one thing is very important, that all microorganisms are trapped may not be true, but then a very effective barrier. Then is the cilia. Cilia are present in nasal tract, so it helps in throwing out the entrapped microorganisms. So microorganisms which are trapped by nasal hairs here, they got to be thrown out, otherwise they will block the passage as such. So that effective work is done by cilia. So cilia here helps in the nasal tract, helps in or help in throwing out the entrapped microorganisms. So these are very important physical barriers: skin, mucus, nasal hairs, and cilia. Then we come to the second type of barriers, chemical barriers. In the first line of defense, the next type is called chemical barriers. Chemical barriers. As the name suggests, uh, they are chemicals. So they are secreted by skin and mucous membrane and mucous membrane, uh, mucous membranes. Now, a few types are as follows. Firstly, the oil, then sweat also. Oil and sweat, as you are aware of, you have studied already that oil and sweat, they are secreted by sebaceous and sudoriferous glands. So these two glands, sebaceous and sudoriferous, they secrete oil and sweat, and the composition of or the nature of these two, oil and sweat, is antibacterial and antifungal. So any antibacterial or antifungal activity is stopped by the presence of oil and sweat. So very important. chemical barriers. Then it may be chemical barriers may be in the form of acids, as we find acid in stomach. In stomach, that's a good example. In stomach, the HCl which is present ingests most of the microbes, kills. Uh, so this is important that the acid is uh, there in the stomach. Then another chemical barrier is in the form of bile. Bile. Bile does not allow growth of microorganisms. As you are aware of, bile is secreted basically by the liver, and once it's poured into alimentary canal, uh, it is a very important part. Then it does not allow growth of microorganisms. Another example is cerumen, that is earwax. Earwax. Again, this earwax is important. It traps dust particles, firstly, then kills bacteria, and also is responsible for repelling insects. So three important functions: firstly, trapping the dust particles, killing bacteria, and lastly or thirdly, repels insects. Another chemical is lysozyme. Lysozyme. Now, lysozyme is present in tears, tissue fluids, and in almost all secretions like sweat, urine, etc. But there is one exception. Lysozyme is not present in cerebrospinal fluid, though it is present in most of the body fluids, but it is not there in cerebrospinal fluid. So this lysozyme attacks bacteria and dissolves their cell walls. So a very good barrier, you can say, a chemical barrier. Then comes another example in the form of bicarbonates. Bicarbonates. Now they are present in saliva, for example. If you see the taste of our mouth, so it is because of basically the presence of saliva. So these bicarbonate ions present in saliva neutralizes the acids in food. Then lastly, another example is vaginal bacteria. Uh, a very common example is lactobacilli. Now, this bacteria produces lactic acid, and this lactic acid kills the foreign bacteria and is also responsible for maintaining low pH. So, pH is slightly acidic, you can say. So, it maintains low pH. So, in the first line of defense, we find very important chemical barriers in the form of firstly oil and sweat, then acids, bile, cerumen, lysozyme, bicarbonates, vaginal bacteria, that is lactobacilli. So they form first line of defense. Then comes the second part, that is the internal defense, as we call it, or the second line defense. So here it is. I just, for your convenience, take it from here. This is second line of defense. So second line of defense, we'll move it down just for convenience. So internal defense or second line defense it occurs when the first line of defense fails. In the body, when attack is there of pathogens or these bacteria, first line defense is quite effective, as we have seen, but at times when it fails, then the second line of defense comes into focus. This is called internal defense. So it includes cellular and physiological barriers. The second line of defense includes two important things: cellular, and secondly physiological barriers. Physiological barriers. Now the cellular barriers. So cellular barriers. These barriers include NK cells, macrophages, and leukocytes. Now, what is this first one? Let us first go through, first examine what are macrophages. Macrophages are large phagocytic cells that arise by enlargement of monocytes. We have already studied a bit of blood. So these monocytes, they subsequently transform into macrophages. Macrophages are of two types. Number one, fixed, and secondly, wandering. So two types of macrophages, fixed and wandering. Now the fixed macrophages, are located in the lining of blood and lymphatic capillaries, in spleen, lymph nodes, liver and bone marrow. While the second one, that is the wandering macrophages, they occur in throughout the connective tissue. So throughout the body, they are there in the connective tissue. So these macrophages, they move to the site of infection like the leukocytes and dispose of the microbes. In this, another type is the WBCs, or the leukocytes. Now the leukocytes are the key to our survival. They are very important corpuscles for our survival, and they constitute major act. Now the major phagocytes such as neutrophils and monocytes are there. Neutrophils are the most abundant and are also called polymorphonuclear leukocytes. The monocytes, after entering tissues, change into macrophages. So when they are in the blood, they are of course monocytes, but subsequently as they enter from blood, they enter the tissue, they form the macrophages. Now how it happens? The leukocytes creep out of the capillaries by amoeboid movement into the intercellular spaces and reach the site of infection. So leukocytes, firstly they move out, creep out of the capillaries. The movement is amoeboid in nature, and then they reach the site of infection, and this movement is called diapedesis. Neutrophils engulf and digest the microorganisms infecting the body tissue, and the process is called, you have already studied this otherwise, phagocytosis. If you remember, phagocytosis. Now the product of digestions are absorbed into the cytoplasm. Then comes the natural killer cells called NK cells. Natural killer cells or NK cells. NK cells. They kill viral infected cells and some tumor cells. They produce perforins. And these perforins are very effective. These perforins create pores in the plasma membrane of the target cells. Now once the pores are there in the plasma membrane, water will enter into the target cell. By entry of water, the cell swells up and it bursts. So NK cells are important in natural resistance to tumors. With this, we finish the first type of internal defense, that is second line of defense. In internal defense or second line of defense, we finish with the cellular barriers. So as we had discussed, cellular barriers are of three types. In general, we have discussed here: NK cells, macrophages, and leukocytes. After cellular barriers, internal defense has got another type of barrier, a set of barriers. They are called physiological barriers. So after the internal defense, as we are discussing, the second type is called physiological barriers. Physiological barriers. So now internal defense, physiological barriers. So these physiological barriers, the important ones are inflammatory reaction, then followed by fever, interferons, the complement system, etc. So four basically we shall be discussing. Number one, inflammatory reaction. Inflammatory reaction. Then comes fever as such. Another one is interferons. And lastly is the complement system. Complement system. So we start with the first one, that is the inflammatory response. Now you must have seen that whenever there is some sort of there's some infringement to the body tissue as such, so inflammatory response is given or inflammatory reaction takes place, and this reaction causes redness, heat, swelling, and pain in the area of infection. At the place of infection, where infection has taken place, four things are very common. Number one, the area becomes red and it is slightly heated up. If we see if we just touch it, we feel that is slightly hot. I mean, maybe than the surrounding, than the other adjoining areas. Then it swells up, and you may find pain also. So inflammatory response, which is the first physiological barrier, has got parameters of redness, heat, swelling, and pain when infection takes place in that particular area. Then this inflammatory response, it is localized to area of infection or tissue where injury has been taken. Now how it happens? It is by release of substances from microorganisms or chemicals released from cells in tissues. There may be microorganisms or there may be cells in the tissue. So they release chemical mediators or chemicals like histamine. Now this histamine is released from mast cells. We'll discuss this mast cells. Once the organisms are destroyed, inflammation settles down. So whenever there is an infection or injury to a tissue, histamine is going to be released. And once the organisms which are causing redness or swelling and pain in that area, they are destroyed, the inflammation settles down. Now these mast cells or also called mastocyte or a labrocyte as the name is, it's a type of white blood cell only. Specifically, it is a type of granulocytes derived from the myeloid stem cell that is a part of the immune and neuroimmune systems and contains many granules rich in histamine and heparin. The next physiological barrier is fever. Well, we all know fever is often the result of infection and is caused by release of chemicals which are called pyrogens from damaged tissue and the cells involved in inflammation. So these pyrogens which are released here, pyrogens, so they are released, they are chemicals. Thirdly, the interferons. Now interferons are glycoproteins released by living cells in response to a vital attack and make the surrounding cells resistant to viral infection by inhibiting multiplication of viral particles. So once the virus enters, this viral infection has taken place. Now this attack has to be repulsed. So interferons, what do? They are making the surrounding cells resistant to viral infection because they will not allow the virus to multiply. So that is how these interferons are quite effective. Now these interferons are of can be grouped into three types. Number one, alpha interferons. Number two, beta interferons, and number three, gamma interferons. Alpha interferons, namely leukocytes, beta interferons, namely fibroblasts, and gamma interferons, the lymphocytes. And lastly, the complement system. It is a biochemical cascade consisting of 30 different serum proteins. It is of two types: classical pathway seen in acquired immunity, which becomes active in response to antigen-antibody complex, and alternative pathway or Properdin system seen in innate immunity, which is activated directly by the presence of bacterial endotoxins and other components of invading microorganisms. With this, we finish this session. Thank you.